episode is brought to you by Generate Solutions, your go-to AI experts specializing in empowering commercial real estate companies and environmental consulting firms. As AI is quickly transforming industries and enhancing efficiency, it is important you don't let your business fall behind. At Generate Solutions, we streamline workflows and automate tasks by creating custom AI agents tailored specifically to your business needs. Interested in taking your operations to the next level with AI? Email mfiorante@generatesolutions.com or find us directly on LinkedIn by clicking the link in the bio. On to our episode.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of A Conversation with John Conenna. Tonight it brings me great pleasure to bring in for a second time here Neil Fontano of Fontano's Subs. And it's just a great pleasure because we had a great conversation the first time with Neil, and it was really nice to get him back here a second time and to talk again a little bit more about the family history and what's going on with him as we approach another ending year and we go into 2026. Neil, how's it going and what's going on with you?
You know what? It's going okay since the last time we talked. I know we had talked a while ago, and throughout the day today, I thought of something. And in the food industry, we always say, you know what? In order to make things work, you need to turn the tables. So I'm figuring today, instead of you interviewing me, I think I should interview you, and we should learn a little bit about you.
I guess I'm going to have to put maybe my stuff off to the side here tonight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, okay, I think I will take the night off.
Yeah, take the night off and let me try to run with this. I mean, normally I'm used to talking a lot, but this interview thing's going to be kind of new to me. But, I thought if it's okay with you, I go, I mean, I know your audience knows a lot about the hockey players and the food guys, and but as I watch your videos, which I really enjoy, especially the sporting good ones and the restaurant ones, obviously. But I says, we really don't know a lot about you, do we?
Okay, I will take this upon you. I think I'm going to enjoy this.
Okay, so let's start out the early years. Where are you from? Are you a city guy? Or let's start out with the early years.
My dad, my sister was born on Chicago in Hamlin in another Italian neighborhood similar to Taylor Street. And then my father bought a building in 1960 in Norwich, Illinois, and that's where I was born in 1960. And we settled there from 1960, and my sister still has this three flat, and that's where I was born. And it's been an area that's been kind of special to me, even though now I live in Elk Grove Village, Illinois.
Right. So you obviously went to school, and so did you go to a local high school? Obviously, a local grammar school.
Yeah,
where did you go to high school?
I went to a rival of course, yours. I know you were from Gordon Tech, and I went to Holy Cross.
Yeah,
I went to Holy Cross, the Catholic school, which was basically in River Grove, but bordered Chicago and Elmwood Park. But it was in River Grove, and I did all 4 years there at Holy Cross High School. It was an all-boys school, and like Gordon was. And those were some fun years there, especially because I wanted to go to the public school, Ridgewood in Norwich, and my dad said, no way, you're going to this all boys school. And we have a Catholic, and he really wanted me to have this better education.
Yeah, and I know we have obviously similar backgrounds. I'm from the city, you're from Norwich, both Catholic school guys,
Right.
and it's these schools that are just like all boys and all girls. They're like a thing of yesteryear. you know?
Exactly, Neil. Exactly. Oh my God, they're closed. I mean, so many have closed. I want to say 95% of them are closed, maybe except for St. Patrick High School.
Yeah, and I felt like coming from there and what's your thoughts on it? I really enjoyed coming from an all boys school. I think it kind of took a little pressure off. So what do you think?
At first, I, oh God, I was devastated because most of my friends, when I graduated from my grammar school, which was a small one-horse school in Norwich, Harwood Heights called St. Rosalie, I was devastated because I told my dad that whole summer, I go, Dad, all my friends are going to Ridgewood High School in Norwich. And he says, I don't care. He goes, you're going to go to this all-boys school. And like how you just broke it down, when I look back at it, now I'm kind of glad because it did prepare me for those college years and how we are both in business. It just felt, yeah, it was something. It gave like a different identity, and you met so many different people.
Yeah, are you still friends with a lot of them? Do you still
Yeah,
know
yeah.
anybody? Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I
Me
mean,
too.
I talk daily to one guy that has been my friend for a long time, John Socha, and but I mean, I still when something comes up or in the community, and you run into places like at restaurants like yours or places. Oh my God, yeah, you're from this class, you're from that class, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's still you run into a lot, and the memories of it are amazing, are amazing.
And do you find the bonds like the bonds that you've created just they're just there and when you're out talking to people I'm from Holy Cross, I'm from Gordon Tech, and you've
Right.
got that instant tie no matter if you were in at the same time or 10 years earlier or 10 years later. Is it still there now?
I think
Is
so. That little bit of thing, like, oh my God. And always a memory comes up if it's not about like classroom stuff, sports, or something corny that you did, or a dance, or a girl you dated, or
Yeah,
something, and, fondly, I have to tell you, and I don't think I've ever told you this, or we might have touched on it. I coached hockey for so many years, and I want to tell you, a gentleman who managed my teams, who was he just still to this day thinks the world of you, Don Johnson, who went to
yeah.
Gordon Tech.
Great, yeah, great athlete, Don Johnson.
And he
Great athlete.
and he
Yes.
and he still talks about you to this day and always brags about your place. But yeah, the way you just put it, yeah, those kind of things always come up for sure.
Yeah, and do you find yourself like I do? Do you find yourself if you tell somebody you're from Chicagoland or somewhere in the air, Norwich, do you find yourself? I do. I don't know about you. I find myself saying I went to Gordon Tech versus I went to UIC. I always go to the high school for some reason that I went to because I think it creates an instant bond.
Yes, I do too. Especially playing sports at Holy Cross. Yeah, I always do go back to that. And do you remember so and so was on that team, or that athlete, or we won this championship in this year, or we went third in the kind. Yes, something always does come up. So I'm kind of like you. I do mention the high school aspect before the college one. Yeah.
Yeah, and did you played sports? Obviously, did you play hockey or what
Yeah,
did you?
they had. Well, it was so funny, Neil. The summer of my freshman year, my dad met a family from Melrose Park that you might be familiar with too. Um, my dad did these translations besides doing the travel for Italian properties, and I'll never forget this. A gentleman walked in the office. He almost looked one of the nicest guys. He almost looked like he was a gangster. He had a fedora on, and he came up to my dad and he said, "We're going to form a hockey team at Holy Cross." And my dad says, "My son is going to Holy Cross." Now, my dad had nothing to do with sports. He was just this guy like your dad, like Neville, who didn't know anything but this 900-foot square office. And this gentleman named Mike Nardella from Melrose
Yeah,
Park came
Bobby
up to
Nardella. Am I
Yes,
correct?
Bob, right, and all them. And he says, we know your son is a goalie, and we're forming a team, and we're looking to put a team together. And I'll never forget my dad with the old-fashioned way. He goes, I'm not sending my son to play hockey. I'm sending my son for an education. So right away, my dad was now, oh no, now this is going to turn, the karma's going to turn on me. But yeah, I played there where they had a club team, and I played on that club team. And, Neil, it was just like, wow. I mean, what a thing to look forward to, because at first I did not want to go to Holy Cross, and now the tide had turned. Yeah.
Right, right. And the Nardellas, they know hockey. I mean,
Oh
the
my God.
Wolves, and then he was very involved with the Chicago Wolves as well as his son with being,
Yes, yes,
in
yes.
Italy, and so yeah, he was really a great
And
little hockey
the
player.
other three brothers, the sons that he had, were playing at Fenwick, older
Yeah,
boys that were playing it. So it was a really ingrained hockey family that lived out of Melrose Park, and of course, then made the transfer over to Holy Cross. So still to this day, I think about this family and how it kind of, like you're saying, it changed my life,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And obviously you move on to college.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
where did you go to college?
I went to Loyola University, actually, and made a team there for 2 years. Didn't play much. There was a great goaltender here in Chicago that played backed up Tony Esposito for a couple games, Bob Janicek, who was the goalie
Yeah,
there, and another guy named Don's. I forget Don's name now. I think it was Don. It might have been even Crawford or Constantine. I can't remember, but I wound up playing 3 games in 2 years, and there was a legendary coach there at Loyola named Jerry Pfeiffer, and he was great to me. He gave me all the confidence in the world, but my goaltending skills from high school to college now had changed, and it was just another great experience. But yeah, went on to play at Loyola for a couple of years, and of course, loved that university.
yeah. So you were a goalie, obviously.
Yes,
You were a
yes,
goalie.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we emulated, I wanted to emulate somebody that you know very well. Maybe he's even been to your place, and I'm sure you saw him in that Taylor Street area. We all wanted to be number 35, Tony Esposito.
Oh,
We all
yeah,
wanted to be
yeah,
Tonio. Um,
yeah.
so it was just something, you have that pipe dream, Neil, of maybe one day, am I gonna come up the steps of the old stadium?
I know. Remember that steps were so steep right
Oh,
behind the net. So you're sitting there and watching them guys come up. And man, I really enjoyed Chicago Stadium. I like the United Center. Don't get me wrong,
yeah,
but man, I'm a nostalgia kind of guy.
yeah. We're
That
both
that
on the
that
same page, and
yeah,
and Neil,
yeah,
I still can remember, and I know you'll remember this. When he would come out, of course, Espo, and then you see Magnuson race around him, and then of course at the end, the two that would come out at the end were Makita and Hall, and there was no better feeling in the stadium when you, like you said, the nostalgia of
yeah.
that place, and that organ was something else. Yeah,
I know, and it's really something where the equipment itself for the goaltenders has come from. I mean, you were wearing little pieces of plastic. These guys are wearing bulletproof vests.
right, right. It just incredible. I mean, I remember this. My arm guards had like these rubber pieces that I would put in the inserts, and you get a guy, 6'2", 6'3", who could shoot a cannon for a shot. You felt it. I mean,
Yeah,
you felt it. Now, like you said, now a goalie is indestructible the way he's dressed. Exactly. I mean, it's come such a long way, a long way.
yeah, yeah. It really, really has. So obviously, I do know that you have a son who is coached a nephew of mine at St. Vitus. So obviously, he's followed in your steps. I understand he was a good hockey player too. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
Vince, my son Vince, and the funny part, thank you for bringing that up. My son Vince wanted to be a goaltender. And because he had seen the pictures, and of course he had talked to his mom, my wife, and Neil, for some reason I just didn't think he had the personality to be this goaltender. So I would tell him, skate out, skate out. You could become a defenseman or forward. And he played forward. He played travel hockey with the Northwest Chargers. He went on to play at the high school here in Elk Grove Village, Conant High School, and then he went on to play at DePaul. When DePaul, of course, has this club team, and from there, then he branched out, became an assistant coach, and then he went to St. Viator, was the head coach there for 7 years, and then brought them a state championship in 2019. Just it was a phenomenal experience, and now
Yeah,
that he's married, he has no
I
time.
follow him. My first cousin's son played, and I went to. I enjoy watching the kids. I actually enjoy watching, you know, hockey at that level, even college, more than the pros. I hate to say it, although I do like the Hawks, but I just enjoy that level where, you know, it's just more of an original, crisp game.
Yes.
Fun.
You
You
see
know,
it? Did you, when you go, you've seen the, like, where a kid's working hard and the innocence of that sport, that you see that fire and desire of, yeah, I like the way you put it, because I used to love to go watch him. And of course, coach the kids at that level. I would love to go to a game all the time at those levels. Sure, for sure, for sure.
yeah, yeah. So you come out of college, right?
Yeah.
And did you go directly in the family business, like on the
Yeah,
family
it
business?
was a kind of a weird experience, Neil. I went to school for broadcast journalism, and again, I mean, I knew the hockey was going to end at the college level, because I mean, I wasn't, I wasn't Tony Esposito, of course,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
but
Well, there's not too many guys are Tony Esposito.
Esposito, right? But
Right?
you're right. I have to say, what happened was, there was a family issue in our family. My sister was really going through a really hard time with her side of the family. And my sister and my cousin from Italy were actually running the travel agency for my father being, of course, the main guy, like Nello was, at that time. And what happened was, with my sister having her issues with her side of the family, and my cousin got into a little bit of a situation here too. Now, this agency that had been in existence now since 1968 to 1979, 80, is starting to crack and crumble because of these two situations. And meaning my sister and my cousins, work ethic started to drop, and my dad now was in a panic, and I was just a delivery boy before the days of emails for my father. I would come from Loyola, deliver airline tickets. My dad would say, go to the Fontano's house, you got to deliver these airline tickets, go pick up passports from downtown, do that. And I would tell my mom every day, I go, Mom, I'm not working for Dad, I'll just do it in the summer. This guy's nuts, he's just a micromanager. Well, little by little, my mom would tell me, please try to learn this, because your father needs help. And I would tell my mom every day, I would say, Mom, I definitely want to do this journalism thing. I had a chance to be, maybe get a radio job, and she says, well, just keep trying to learn the business. And Neil, I would tell him every summer, this is the last summer, and it's 2025, and I'm still there.
There's
You
a
know,
lot of summers behind you.
yeah, a lot of summers, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's how that got started, Neil. And then by the mid 80s, the late 80s, then I started to get the grasp of this and really following my father's footsteps. Yes.
And was your father still involved at the time?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
actually pretty much was still involved till about I'd say 2008, 2009. Of course, the age was getting against him. My mom had passed away early in life. She was 65, so the last 17 years of his life were kind of, in those years of just like you could see that he wasn't the same. And my dad's name was Vincenzo Conenna. He wasn't the same guy. You could see there was that feeling of, he really missed my mom. And he worked up until his death in 2015. He was 89, but of course, to grasp onto this modern world, as you know, he just couldn't relate anymore to what was going on with emails and websites and everything else. But no, he was pretty much on board till about 2006, and then of course relinquished a lot of things to me to let's see, let's try it, let's do it your way. And it became tough for me with this modern world with internet and everything else, but I had to develop some niches and reinvent the place a few times, to keep it going.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you imagine your father, my father, when they came into their businesses to where these businesses are now, and the difference between, what your father was doing in 68, you said, am I correct? Or whenever he
Yes,
opened up.
you are
And my
100%
father,
correct.
roughly 63. So what he was doing in 63, if he's sitting in the store right now looking at what technology has done, it's got to be the same as your dad. If he sat there and went, wow, what's
Right.
happened here?
Yeah, it's just amazing. And, you know, I, I remember the interview with you and of course your father and everything and how well respected he was here in the city, your father. And even my father in this industry, I was asked a question the other day, Neil, from a client. They said, who do you think was the better travel agent? And I said, my dad didn't have Google. If he told me that the Fontanos were going to go to Acerra in Napoli, he'd pull out a map. He'd say, okay, you're going to go here. It would take him a couple days, but he had it all figured out. Where now, I mean, we push a button and okay, Neil, here's your ticket, this, that, and that. But yeah, definitely, you talk about your father and my father and the years of sacrifice and what they had to do to get this to the level of today is amazing. Is amazing.
It is really something. And the technology from them till now is like night and day,
Right.
but I would say that, from a business point of view, I think my father was a much better businessman than I was because of the way the situation was.
Well,
And I
I
mean, I'm
second
sure
it
you
for my
agree.
dad too, for sure.
Yeah,
100%. One
I
hundred
mean, they
percent.
were just, yeah, yeah. So now I know you have your business. So how do you juggle business, right? And I know you're big in hockey. I mean, I know you're really big in Illinois hockey. So how are you juggling that, you know,
You know,
between, everything that's going on in your life?
Neil, I got to tell you, and I want to go back to so my son was about 6, 7 years old, and I was approached by a gentleman who here in Illinois is a legendary coach. His name was Tim Mueller. Is Tim Mueller is still around? Uh, Tim asked me if I wanted to coach a team, and I says, "Well, how many days a week?" Because he knew I had played, and years ago. And it starts in about 1995 where I get really full time back into it. And, now just they said, oh, just be Saturday and Sundays. Now I'm out here 5 nights a week, loving this. It's a passion. It's something that I missed. And, I really had to watch, meaning like what you just said. How do you juggle these two things? Because you like them both and you knew the travel part was your bread and butter. So,
Yeah,
8-hour days now became basically 14-hour days with you come home and go to sleep and start it all over again. But it's something that I always wanted to do, especially the youth hockey. And then I coached travel hockey for the Northwest Chargers. And then I went on to coach the high school here in Elk Grove Village, Conant for 12. And then I went on through a gentleman that I think you might know who passed away 2 years ago and just got into the Hockey Hall of Fame, Matty Rossabillo. He was from Glen Ellen, and he had me coach 2 years at DePaul, which was at the tail end of my career. So now, Neil, this is a great question by you. When I go back and look at this, and I'm here on a Thursday night talking with you, where maybe 20 years ago on a Thursday night, I was at an ice rink, I say to myself, yeah, how did I do all this? Right? I
yeah,
know.
yeah. So let me ask you this: what what was the most important lesson you tried to instill in the players from all the ages, the beginning ages of six, all the way up until the college level? Because I imagine you are teaching them something different at
Yes.
every age.
Oh, yeah. Great
You know,
question. That is, I mean, I love this question. I don't even think no one's ever approached me with this type of a question, but I got to tell you, um, when a child is a boy or a girl, because I don't want to take away from the
right?
ladies in the audience here tonight. When they're 6 and 8 years old, sometimes you get that parent that comes up to you and says, "Hey, you should see my kid. He's the next Bobby Hall." And then when that kid becomes maybe 12 or 13, everybody else is caught up to that person. The biggest thing I think I have to say that I instilled was I want you guys to know that this is a team sport. This is definitely a team sport. This is not, and I'm not going to take away these two sports, how I'm going to compare them. This is not tennis. This is not boxing. You got five guys on the ice plus that goaltender. This is a team sport, and we have to be a team and a family at the same time. Otherwise, this will not be a successful thing. When I went to the high school here in Elk Grove, whoever was coaching the team before or the people that were there, they didn't care. And when I went there, the person who hired me said, "What are you going to do to change things here in Elk Grove Village?" And I says, "Well, first of all, we're going to change the culture here. And the culture is, yes, I know school comes first, your family comes first too, but when you come here for that 1 hour for practice or that 1 hour for the game, give me everything you got. Don't come here with some kind of a, halfway attitude where, you think this is just fun and games. If you're coming here, because these parents were spending, Neil, $2,500 to $3,000, $2,500 to $3,000 to have their kid play this club sport. So I
Yeah,
says, your parents are paying good money, not for you guys here to be fooling around. So I always said, if you're going to come here for 1 hour practice or game, give me everything that you can in that 1 hour.
right, right. So you would instill that at the high school level, and then at the college level, what would you say to
College
them?
level, the college level was different. And I have to be honest because now, even at the high school level and the college level, of course, what changes is, and I think you'll agree with me, Neil, is the company that you keep. Sometimes, of course, nowadays, as we know, the extracurricular could lead to alcohol, it could lead to drugs. And of course, sometimes, in a good way or a bad way, it leads to dating and other extracurricular that
Right.
happens with a lady friend or a man. And this sometimes was really something that, I go, don't bring this to the rink. You have to settle these things before the rink because this basically, becomes like a disease for the team. If one guy's, everybody used to say, we can always tell when a goalie's having a bad night. Well, I said, you know what? For if the goalie's having a bad night and he's getting pummeled with 40 shots, those five guys in front of him, somebody may not be working and somebody may not doing something. So what's going on? What is going on? I needed to know, Neil, as a coach, what was going on in the player's life outside of that rink and inside of that rink, because a lot of times the outside pressures sometimes were brought to the rink, if it was by the things that I mentioned or by the parents themselves who, you could have a father that said, don't listen to Neil Fontana, the coach. I know what I'm doing. He doesn't know what he's doing. And I got a lot of that over my career where, you had to have even like a meeting with the parents and say, hey, listen, we got a system here. We can't think that he's going to run this team by himself. So there's a lot that went into it, and you had to press a different button with every player. I mean, Neil Fontano, John Conenna are two different personalities. So you had to watch how you treated that player in every aspect of the game.
Yeah. So now it's funny because this is what I'm thinking as you're talking. You and I both played. I played in the '70s. You're a tad older than me. Um,
Yes.
I'm curious to know, as a guy who was very involved in the game, and I was involved as a player, throughout into my 20s, and then on to men's leagues and so on and
Oh,
so
yeah.
on. Um, but as a guy who coached kids that were 6 years old and a guy who's played when he was in his teens, I'd like to know what you really think the differences are between the players that were when you were playing 16, 17 years old and the parents at that time and the kids and the parents now.
Okay, I'm going to try to break this down as best as I can. When we were the ages we were, I remember this was basically I still remember this, and I told this story to a really good friend of mine the other day. You know, it was $45 to join a park district called Harwood Heights. And I remember my father arguing with my mother that it was going to cost $45 to play outside with the hope that we were going to have a cold winter and they were going to be able to freeze this rink in Harwood Heights. Now I just saw for the kids that I grew up with at that age, six, and you said like teenage years, this was like playing outside was, you thought you were playing in the Chicago Stadium. Now,
Yeah.
this is handed to you on a silver platter. I see where kids are coming into rinks with $200 sticks, Neil. Uh,
Yeah.
Gear that's I think it's I think my son was telling me it's about 1,200 now to for a forward with shoulder pads, elbow pads, hockey
Yeah.
pants. The skates alone, I think, are over $500 to $800. Now, I just feel that I'm going to use the word the player of today may be more talented because he's on the ice 5, 6 days a week. But I just think our era, Neil, was an era of sacrifice. You were outside, and if you got that chance every once in a while to play in Ridgeland Commons or Franklin Park or a
Yeah.
rink on the side,
McFetrich. McFetrich.
McFlurry, right by Gordon Tech. That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
luxury for us then. And I mean, I would love to have seen our era play now. I I mean, I just think the difference is that we really respected the guys who respected it during those 60s and 70s. It was just you knew what your parents had to go through because this was an expensive sport if it was 45 dollars then and to what it is now. But I just feel that the that those kids of that era, our era, to now, I think the era of now is a spoiled era.
Yeah, and I seem to find, and like I said, I do go watch my cousin's kids, and I tend to gravitate watching young hockey and the young
It's
hockey 16, 17. But you know what I've noticed, and again, you've been around the game a lot more than me in the recent years, but I've noticed that when I was playing and I'm at McFedrick's or Saint Spectrum,
oh,
Crestwood,
no,
or in Ridgeland, on Oak Park
right.
there on Lake Street, I, I just noticed when you looked in the stands when you were 16, 17 or playing juniors in Glenview, you had a few people in the stands. You didn't have my father. I don't think my father seen me play one hockey game.
Right, right.
I mean, but then by that time he had my oldest brother Dominic, my brother Johnny, my brother Jimmy. All of us were hockey players. By the time he got to me, he was so hockeyed out, So he hadn't watched a single game. But I noticed now, when I'm playing, I'm looking in the stands in my teens, as juniors or something. What do you see? 10, 15 people. And now you're lucky you could get a seat. It's unreal.
Exactly. Great point by you. And I got to tell you another thing that I forgot to mention, and it was part of your question, Neil. These rinks are packed. And I just think the parents of a lot of these boys and girls are trying to play through their kids because the minute their child is not on the ice, and I had this issue many times with a lot of parents, the minute, well, why isn't my Neil Fontano out there? He's better than Joe Frazier over here. Why isn't he out here? And there would be meetings there, thinking that you were against their child. Like you said, your father maybe came to one game. When my dad would come to the game, he'd watch, we'd get in the car, and he goes, the first thing he'd say to me would be, he didn't care if I won or lost or had him black and blue. He says, you better have finished your homework.
Right.
You better have finished your homework because I could care that I don't care that Gordon Tech just killed you 6-1. I don't care. He goes, you better do your homework. It's 10 o'clock and we're driving back from Irving in California over here. So it's a different mindset.
Yeah,
right.
I could see, some of these parents as I sit there and I watch, and I was, my son played high school football. So, I mean, he wasn't the best, but I was a very realistic parent. And when I sat in them stands, I'd go, I know when my son's supposed to be on the field, and I know when he's not supposed to be on the field. Sometimes I look and I wonder, and I listen to parents, and I'm watching, I'm going, what are these parents saying in the car? Are they saying you didn't do your homework? Or are they saying, how did you miss that pass or that open net?
Right. A great analogy, and I love the way the way you pose these questions here tonight. Now, I got to tell you, so I was a very emotional, loud coach. I was very loud, very emotional. I mean, I would get on, I pushed buttons. I mean, I was very motivating. Well, I'll never forget. We go to a game, and my wife's in the car one night, and my wife thinks my son's having a bad game. So she gives me an elbow in the stands one night, and she says to me, she goes, when he gets off the ice and gets in the car, you better tell him that he's better start forechecking. And my wife was starting to understand the game.
Yeah.
He's got to go in the corners. He's got to get the puck in. So the car ride home with my son, I would always say, Vince, what do you think here tonight? Well, he goes, Dad, I'm trying. I'm doing the best I can, and I wouldn't get under his skin. And one day my wife says to me, I don't get it. She goes, I come to watch your teams that you coach, and you're a raving lunatic on that bench. But when it comes to your son, you don't have that same attitude because that coach who's coaching my son, I said, is instilling a different type of system than what I'm showing to my kids. So I go, I can't disrespect what that coach is doing. And one of the biggest things with me that was successful for me, Neil, is very, very rarely in the 19 years that I coached, I might have coached my son 3 of those 19 years. Yeah.
Right. So, I know you were, and I just, we're friends on Facebook, and I love Facebook.
Friends in life, and friends in life.
Yes, we're friends in life now for sure. So, but I also see, and I learned this through Facebook, that you're big with softball, 16-inch softball.
Yes,
I know you're big, and I never knew that about you in the little time that I've known you. So you go hockey and softball. You want to talk about two different things. So how'd you get into softball?
Well, I played softball my whole life. And one of the greatest things about this softball was I was in 5th grade and I loved to play softball. I just loved to play softball. I couldn't hit fastball. We used to play with a rubber ball, kneel by a building, throwing 100 miles an hour.
Pitching.
Fast pitching and throwing.
Yeah.
So I was never a really good fastball hitter. So one day, another good friend of mine who passed away, his name was Don Chohan. He was on the 8th grade softball team, and they would take the 7th and 8th graders and make this 8th grade softball team. And I was in 5th grade at the time, and he asked me one night, he says, you want to come watch our softball game, 8th grade? He lived right next door to me in Norwich. And I says, yeah, I'd like to come. Well, anyway, their short center fielder got hurt because there's 10 guys on a field in softball. And like I said, I was in 5th grade. And the next day he comes up to me, he goes, "Hey, are you coming tonight?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I got some good news for you." I go, "What?" He goes, "You're going to be playing in the eighth grade softball game." I go, "The eighth grade softball game?" Now, when you're in fifth grade, an eighth grader
Yeah.
looks like, they're 7 feet
Yeah.
tall.
Yeah.
I says, "Isn't there a sixth or seventh grader that you guys can get?" No, he goes, "I told the eighth grade softball coach, you got to see this fifth grader play." And from that day on, Neil, I never looked back. I love the sport. I didn't play it for a couple years. And then I was approached by this Hyatt softball team up here around Catherine Woods near Norwich. And I was approached. My cousin and a couple friends were working at this Hyatt hotel, and they says, "Hey, would you like to play softball one summer?" And I did. And from there, I wound up playing in one summer in 4 leagues. People would come out and they would see you play and say, "Hey, can you play with us on Sunday? Can you play with us on Saturday?" And there were always jerseys, different jerseys in my
Yeah.
car. I loved it so much that I wound up playing
Chicago
for about,
game. It's a
oh,
Chicago game.
the greatest.
Yeah. People look at you when you talk about 16 and they go, "What? There's no glove?
No
There's no
glove.
glove? No, there's no glove. You
And
got
your
no
hand,
fingers after a
yeah,
season."
your hands are,
Your hands are
crooked,
like this.
mangled.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wound up playing it for a long time. And then, then when I was done, I knew I was done. I stopped playing when I was about 33 years old. And then the family was getting a little bit bigger. And then about 5 years ago, a phenom of a player named Dave Rule came up to me, who I played against many years. He says, "John, I'd like you to get involved." He goes, I tell people all the time about you that, when you played, would you like to get involved? And I go, "Involved in what?" He goes, "Well, we have a museum in Forest Park called the Chicago 16-inch Softball Hall of Fame." And I says, "Well, how do you want me to get involved?" And he says, "Well, I see that you do a podcast. Would you like to interview guys that are going into the Hall of Fame for us, like on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon?" I says, "Well, if you guys can't find anybody and I can work it around my schedule at work, it would have to be after work. I'll do it." So every Saturday, and I became this a little show that we have called Talking 16-inch with John Conenna. It's on Saturdays, and I interview a Hall of Famer that's been inducted every Saturday, usually from the months of November to March. And then last year, I was elected to their board to be on the board for decisions and things like that. So it's a 9-man board with some ladies on the board. And it's been a great experience. I've been there 4 years. Some of the nicest people. The president of the Chicago 16 and Softball Hall of Fame is a gentleman named Paul Rowan. Uh, like I said, acclimated with some really good board people. And the two sports that I love, Neil, you brought them up
Yeah.
tonight. I
Yeah.
don't know which one I like better, is hockey and
Well,
softball.
I
Yeah.
like hockey a little better. Yeah. I'm a hockey guy. So well, I like softball, but I'm a hockey guy. I'm gonna ask you one more question. Then I got three questions for you.
Okay.
All right. You asked me about movies. I'm gonna ask you about something. This question's kind of you just kind of brought it up a little bit. How did you get in? How and why did you get in the podcasts? Is this just something you wanted to do?
Yeah, well, okay, so it goes back to the journalism degree, Neil, where what happened was I really wanted to be a radio announcer. Besides, trying to think I was going to be the next Tony Esposito,
Yeah.
the guy that I love, and you know him. I grew up listening to a transistor radio, listening to the greatest hockey announcer, Lloyd Pettit.
Oh, unreal.
And Pettit Pettit
Yeah.
made you feel like you were in the stadium. I
Yeah.
still to this day, no, listen, nothing against Pat Foley. Pat Foley was a great announcer, but I have to say, and I don't know if Pat Foley's ever going to listen to this, but my guy was Lloyd Pettit, and I wanted to be Lloyd Pettit in the worst way if I couldn't be Tony Esposito. But I wanted to be a radio announcer, even to do the news, whatever. So my whole thing was when I was a kid, I would take a reel-to-reel tape recorder and tape the games, and then make my own synopsis of what went on in the game after. So I'd be in a room locked up, and my sister would say, "Mom, Dad, he's talking to himself again." In the
Yeah,
room.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's how I. And now the thing was to do these podcasts. Yeah.
yeah. Well, you do a great job. You really
Thank
do.
you.
It's been
Thank you.
very, very enjoyable for me. I do watch the ones that really interest me, and believe
Yeah.
me, the Darcy Rodas and
Oh,
man,
great. I
this
hope you saw the one too with Grant Mulvey.
I did see the one. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and Pompeii Bakery. So I
Yeah, of
mean,
course, you're a
yeah,
good friend,
I
Ralph
I
Davino.
yeah, I really enjoy them. So now you asked me about three movies. I'm going to ask you three questions. Just give me a short answer,
Got
because
it.
I know I've been dragging you around here for a
No,
while.
no, this is great.
All right. So what do you what's in the front of you? What's in the front of John Conenna? What do you see in the front of you in the
Like,
next whatever?
you know, uh, uh, Neil, that's a great question because I feel me and you are really, really cut from the same cloth where I don't think we're two guys that can be sitting at home. There's
Right.
just no way.
Right.
I want to continue to keep this Venus travel going as long as I can. If I have to go to school to do something else, I still think I would like to. There's something I still would like to do before this is all over, some spark. But yeah, I just hope that the big guy gives us and gives me the health too, like you, family, and everybody else to keep doing to do something because there's something burning in me that I want to still do, and if I could do something different, I really want to try. If of course this technology forces me out, yeah.
See, and now it's funny because that's my next question. My next question is, what do you think your business is going to look like in the future? Because you're going from, well, let's take your father. He was writing them, you were delivering tickets, you're grabbing passports, you're bringing everything back. Now you go and you've got Google and whatever you're working with.
Right.
Now, what do you see your business like in the future?
Neil, this thing what I think you've heard called AI.
Yeah,
I think is the wave of the future, just like the internet was in the mid 80s. I just think that this AI is really, really going to control, I think, this airline industry where I think it's going to make it even easier for people to get things. I had to reinvent this thing a few
yeah,
times to stay alive. Uh, we almost closed it in 2006 when my father was alive because we saw that a Neil Fontana could go on his phone and go to Las Vegas. We saw that Neil could go
right.
to Florida. So we had to make a special niche, become more of a specialist, I feel like now I'm more of like a concierge where I'm servicing a client from beginning to end. So I, I would like to say I'd like to keep it going as long as I can, but I do see a little bit of that light dimming as technology is really forging ahead. Yeah, but
But that's happening for everybody too. I mean, you could
right.
buy a car on the internet, you don't even
Yes.
need to go into a dealership.
No.
So,
No.
modern technology has its drawbacks,
Right. Right.
and
Exactly.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, so I mean, it seems like it's going to make a turn and it's phasing a lot of stuff out. But I also
Sure.
see this as a guy who's on the street, is
Sure.
I kind of see like people are going back to them little mom pop places, whereas there was a time there, I mean, you're seeing a lot of little bit more. They're specialty stores, but I'm seeing a change, and
Yes.
I'm hoping that it changes more because I think our businesses made this country what it is today, and
Yes.
they were phasing us out, but hopefully we're coming back.
Right. And I think with all the mistrust that we have, I think people want to have that honest face, that person, that Agnello Fontana, Vincenzo Canena style again, without
Yeah,
a doubt. You
yeah,
are 100% when you say that, for sure.
yeah, yeah. All right. So my last question is, and we did touch on this just a little bit right now. Um, I know you're not going to retire because you're like me. I mean, I go in. I was in today for a few hours. I don't go in like I did when I was working. Do you see yourself retiring at any point in time from, or just not going in as much?
You know what? I started to now say to myself these last few months, and I think I'm going to try to implement it in 2026. I think if I don't have anything pending, I think I'm going to relinquish where maybe I'll do it from home. I'll answer my phone. Like when you'll tell me, "Hey, John, I'm coming in on Monday at 2 o'clock." Well, I make the appointment, but the days of somebody walking in, especially my kind of business, a travel agency off the
Right.
street, are done. You
Yeah.
don't have that anymore. So yeah, I start to see myself where maybe I can do this basically part-time, maybe from my home, or a 3 day a week, maybe two in the office, three here. So that's what I think I would like to
Yeah. That
envision.
would be a perfect world. You keep busy enough and,
Yes,
you know,
but not
you know,
totally shut down. But that's what I think I would like to do. I would like to do,
yeah.
but to still keep the dream alive. Yes.
Yeah, yes. Well, I enjoyed this. I hope I didn't take your thunder out. I mean, I
No,
don't
no,
mean to put you on a spot or anything,
no,
but
no, Neil, I didn't expect, of course, not being prepared because I had so many things to say to you tonight. You switched the
yeah,
roles on me, but which
yeah.
was
Turn the
fantastic.
tables. We turned the tables.
Yeah,
We
we
turned
turned
the
the tables. But
tables.
I got to tell you, your questions were unbelievable tonight because I tell you, I've been interviewed a couple times before, but this tonight were different questions, and I really appreciated you asking me some questions, especially about the hockey and the business, because these are things I really have to tell you that I wanted to get off my chest
Yeah,
at a certain point because I've always just told friends, but I hope people got my message about, what hockey meant to me and what it meant to coach kids. And of course, how, business is handled, how me and you talk about our businesses. It was very, I truly thank you for tonight.
well, and I thank you for giving me, an opportunity of turning this on you.
Yeah.
I
Oh my
wasn't
God.
expecting it. I'm like, I wasn't expecting it to happen,
Yeah.
but it happened.
You have a
I
little bit of
figured.
a second nature in here, near
Yeah.
you tonight.
I said, let me roll the dice. What's the worst possible thing? No, I'm not going to do it. What's the
Right.
worst? I go, so
Exactly. No, fantastic. Again, thank you so much. And we're going to do another one. If I have to do you, you do me. But this is something that I always wanted to do.
we're good. Well, I learned more about you and thank you again, and keep up the good work. You're doing a great job in everything you do.
Yeah, and you too. Great job. And maybe one day I could get you out to the Hall of Fame there for a bit. You could come and sit in the audience when I'm doing a podcast of one of the players,
Absolutely. I
and
would
we
love to do it.
and we
Just
got
give
to
me a
do a
call.
United Center game together too, because I love
Oh,
your passion for the hockey.
absolutely. Absolutely. So it was great doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. And we'll definitely see you down the road.
We will. We will.
Okay. Good night,
Bye
Neil.
bye.
Good night.
Good night.